Hello, friends. On this glorious day in drink history, we head to Las Vegas to catch up with the great Francesco Lafranconi. Always a gentleman of the highest order, Mr. Lafranconi is the executive director of Mixology and Spirits Education at Southern Wine and Spirits in Nevada. And ladies and gentlemen, boy, has he built himself something spectacular out there in the middle of the desert. Francesco's educational space at Southern Wine and Spirits in Las Vegas is one of the finest in the world, combining cutting-edge media technology with a simulated bar environment to create an incredible place for spirits and cocktail learning. He's one of those guys that has become a fixture in the modern cocktail culture. He's a passionate advocate for Italian spirits, and I couldn't be more excited to have him on this broadcast. Let's do this. This episode of the Educational Drinking Show is sponsored by Luxardo. You all know and love Luxardo for their legendary maraschino liqueur and maraschino cherries for garnishing. But did you know that there is so much more to Luxardo than maraschino? That's right, folks. A full range of Luxardo liqueurs is available for your cocktail creativity, including Amaro Habano, Bitter, Aperitivo, my personal favorite, Luxardo Apricot, and the newest offering, Bitter Bianco. Good stuff. And now it is my great pleasure to share with you my interview with Francesco Lafranconi.
Well, I'm originally from Lake Como area, and then I moved when I was very young to the northeast, so near the, it's called the Friuli region. Mm-hmm. My parents moved, they opened up a bar there, so I've been in the hospitality business since I was born, or since I can remember anyway.
Last time I went to Luxardo, we drove up to Switzerland. And I know George Clooney has a house at Lake Como. And I had to see it, and it is beautiful.
He does. He actually brought too much attention to that little area that the locals are kind of fed up with the paparazzi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did your family being in hospitality influence you coming up and growing up?
Well, it's all my father's side, they being in hospitality, and they have, they had dancing, nightclubs, and grocery and bars, and so I'm very grateful because I was able to be exposed to to the service industry world, and hospitality is that's what I breathe, that's what I preach every day, and that's what I promote. So it's a wonderful industry to be in.
One of the things that I really admire about you as a professional, I guess if I could sum it up in a word, it's class, professionalism. You really, I think you take your craft so seriously in your approach to it. Where did that come from? When did you realize that this industry was something that you're passionate about, and how did that all come about?
Well, Alan, I take my my profession, very seriously, but yet I have a lot of fun doing it. Mm-hmm. So I think that I was very fortunate to be exposed to great mentors. From when I started the hotel school when I was about 14, 15 years old, probably 15 years old, and I found this great teacher who used to own a nightclub, a piano bar, and always very professionally dressed. And then, of course, being Italian, I have to promote the made in Italy with my, clothing and savoir-faire. However, it's really, when you're looking at this great barman that they were behind the bars of these fine stars hotels, and a white jacket, impeccable candid white, and a big smile, charismatic individual. So I always try to emulate that kind of image and promote it with my peers, and trying to allow those that have been less fortunate not from finding a mentor to perhaps come across and get a little bit of influence.
So you started going to hotel school at 14?
I was probably 15 years, right after middle
happen?
School. I want to become a veterinarian, but I realized that my way of study, chemistry and medicine was not like, my favorite choice. So at that time, actually, I wanted to become a chef because I love cooking. And then, the chef courses were sold out, so to speak. So I decided to become a pastry chef because I like, sugar sculptures and sauces and bakery. But then that was sold out too. So I decided to be, like a management front of the house. And then there were also bar programs. So basically, for the entire 9 months of the school year, alternatively, bi-weekly, we had Monday through Friday bar classes every day. And then cooking and front of the house. So basically, they were trying to shape the next generation of Maitre D's, and barman that would run a 5 stars luxury operation. And it's been basically what I've been doing since I grew up.
So in Italy, is there like a high school where you go until 18 and then you go on to how did you at such a young age get into such a specialized training?
Well, I guess I was very talented. No, jokes apart. I really, after elementary, you go to middle school for 3 years. And then from there, you decide to go, right before university, college, you have this kind of 3-4 years of high school, basically. So everybody can change and choose a different, disciplines. But mine was basically hospitality, and I didn't go through like a 5 years what we call liceo, which is very intense, with a lot of administration involved as well. Management, hotel management. But I was more of a hands-on, and that's what I like the most, and that's what shaped up my future career.
And when you think back to that training, what do you really take away from that today in your work? How did it shape you?
It was really going through like boot camp. Boot camp, when you're thinking about joining the Marines, or the discipline was very high level. Everything from the cleanliness of your working uniform to the environment that you're working in, and even I remember when we have to unfold the tablecloth and sit it on the table, if the line of the folding wasn't perpendicular to the entrance or diagonal to the entrance of the door, you would get points of the merit.
Whoa.
So if there were the food crumbles on the floor, when the maitre d' would inspect the dining room before and after, and the clearing the way that you would clear the plates, rather, I mean, so many details. But the mixology back then was based on the product knowledge, of course, right? And tasting. And it was great. I mean, we were 15, 16-year-old, and we were drinking an XO cognac, or we were drinking cachaça. I mean, I was making caipirinha at the age of 16 in the 80s. Right now, even in the US these days, a lot of bartenders don't even know how to make a very proper caipirinha, So I was extremely lucky to be exposed to great teachers.
Did you see it as an opportunity in terms of what it would become back then? Was it a profession that one would aspire to, and something that you were working towards?
Bartending, the way that I wanted to embrace it and live it every day, it was a career that some of my peers still are involved. Like if I'm thinking about my former team at the Hotel Cipriani in Venice, or the Palace Hotel in Stad, or Glen Eagles in Scotland, the places that I work. That was an incredible way of, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. You work in these fine establishments. You have the entire world coming through those bar stools. Company CEOs, or just bon vivants and whoever. You never know who's in front of you, right? But you learn so much from these individuals just by talking and sharing experiences of life. And then you're behind this bridge of command where you have all these beautiful mise en place and, incredible quality ingredients, spirits, liqueurs. So, you don't have to worry about the bottom line. You're just giving the best to meet the 5 stars rating. So it's a luxurious environment where you have crystal glassware, sterling silver shakers. And so it was almost like Alice in the Wonderland, but it was real.
And when you left your schooling, were you sure? Did you know you wanted to go into drinks? Was that your focus?
Yes, I, again, thanks to. So here's the story. Basically, I was going through. I was 17, 18 years old at that time, and my teacher was. My teacher was basically one of the largest Italian collector of single malts. I remember the Gordon MacPhail's line of, Portela in 1971, Scapa 1963. I mean, I couldn't dream more of a single malt selections back then. So I was so fascinated by Scotch whiskey that I said, you know what? I'm 22 years old. I'm going to Scotland. I'm broke, but I'm sending my resume, and Gleneagles Hotel picked it up and told me, be here in a month. We're starting orientation. So
Whoa.
I have to leave my job, everything. At that time, I had a 2-year-old, a year and a half daughter, and the wife that I had to leave and move to Scotland. And for almost a year, I was there, and I was making more money basically in being a golf caddy in my days off and then working behind the bar. However, with my days off, I started to travel Scotland and go to distilleries, and that's where my passion was able to be pursued. So for Scotch whiskey, very dear to my heart, but learning also the English bartending method with the incredible school of bartending that the Italians also have as one of the strongest legacy in the hospitality business is maitre d's and barman.
And for folks that don't know, Gleneagles is kind of a legendary place. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, the Gleneagles in 1994, when I was there, received the #1 rating hotel in United Kingdom. I still remember that they sent me out with the assistant general manager of the hotel. I used to have a tray with a bottle of Lanson champagne with my, very shy, not personality in front of a photographer with the backdrop of Gleneagles Hotel, and it was fantastic. But Gleneagles, it's really one of the top, most beautiful resorts in the world, not just for golf or falconry or clay shooting or riding, but the quality of service is outstanding. So that was really when I realized I want to be in this world of kind of a super premium luxury environment, but not luxury because I wanted to have that, I wanted to be in that environment just for luxury alone, but it was a way where you could have access to the most super premium ingredients that the industry had to offer.
And where'd you go from there?
And then I came back to Italy. I wanted to I wanted to acquire more skills about speed. And then I went to work in a very, very highly traffic bar that turned into a lounge, dance floor in the nights, super packed, very cool, very trendy. Then I needed to have barista experience as well, because my parents growing up, my father was making ice cream from scratch, all seasonal. I remember I used to have my Vespa and a 50 liters milk can, go to my uncle's farm, get the milk, draw back, put them in the pasteurizer, and overnight, and then make ice cream the next day.
Whoa!
So that so when I came to America and talking about market fresh mixology, I look and say, what is market fresh mixology? Isn't the way it's supposed to be? So I was very lucky to be exposed to seasonal flavors, genuinity, freshness, and growing up also my other side of the family, farming, I was able to be exposed to the seasons, to, making from milk, butter from scratch, ricotta, formaggio, cheese, everything. So honestly, I'm very grateful for my past and growing up in my childhood.
This is fascinating to me because I know that you've had a passion and you've really championed dessert kind of inspired cocktails. And it sounds like dessert and pastry chef and all this stuff played a big role in growing up and something that you had an interest in early on.
Absolutely. I really think that, when you're looking at masterpiece, work of art, dessert, but even or a main course or a salad where, you can play with, pomegranate seeds, and you have the rucola, and you have a particular type of, like sherry vinegar or balsamic richness and umami texture. And then from there, you can also develop a cocktail as well. Or from desserts, I get inspired a lot lately also from my dear friend Salvatore Martone from Rabuchon L'Atelier here in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And then, but being a good friend close to Chef Thomas Keller, Daniel Boulou, and few others, their pastry chefs are amazing too. So they keep fueling my creativity from presentation and ingredient standpoint.
And how'd you end up in the United States?
Wow, that is a story that I repeat quite often, but it keeps fascinating me because, when you talk about carpe diem, that's exactly what I experienced firsthand. I was working at the Hotel Cipriani, and that was back in October 98. And I was ready to go catch a train and go back to my hometown. And it was my Friday, basically. I was having the 2 days off coming up. And my colleague called in and said, Francesco, I'm sick, I can't make it. So I said, don't worry about it. I'm taking a double for you. I have no worry working. So I did take in a double. At the Hotel Cipriani, you have 3 bars. So the pool bar, they closed down at 6 p.m. We opened the San Giorgio bar, which is the one until 10 p.m., the aperitivo bar. And then from there, we have the Gabbiano bar, where you have the dance floor with the light piano. So closing the second bar is close to 9:30 p.m. 2 gentlemen come in, shorts and polo and totally casual. And they're looking for a chocolate. They're looking for a bitter chocolate ice cream, which was very famous, and a lot of food magazines were raving about it. And I said, gentlemen, happy to help, whatever you need. At that point, it was my future boss that I've been with him for 16 years.
Wow.
But back then, he said, really? You can get me whatever I need? I said, yes, sir. Whatever you need. And so we start talking. He started asking me about the humidor and the cigars that were in it. Start talking about, I remember Nocando, Speyside Malt, and Limoncello. And my knowledge was very fresh because a few months earlier I won the World Bacardi Martini Grand Prix among 45 countries.
Oh, wow.
So that was, basically what Bacardi Legacy is now. That was the worldwide, as well. So he was so fascinated about my knowledge, said, I would like you to come to America and work in Las Vegas and educate my sales force and my customers. And all of a sudden, I was like struck. In my mind, I thought about a dirt road in the middle of the desert with rolling bushes, crossing the road, and brothels on one side and money laundering casinos on the other side. And I go like, well, I'm flattered by the offer, but I do have a young daughter and a wife, and said, don't worry, we'll take care of your entire family. So I said, that's very nice of you, but I have to go through Hotel Palace in Stade, Switzerland. And then maybe after the season, I'll come and see you. Say, let's have dinner tomorrow. So next day, I'll drive with my wife from my hometown to St. Mark's Square, and we'll start writing numbers on a cocktail napkin right outside the Café Florian in St. Mark's Square. And then from there, the following spring, I came to Vegas for a month. And then I back to the Cipriani, back here for 3 months. And then I said, okay, let's get the paperwork done. And, we sold everything and no contract, just an handshake. And I came to America. I probably had $700 cash, and that's all I had, a wife and a daughter.
And what was your impression of Vegas when you arrived?
It was the Wild West.
Yeah.
Yes, there was so much to do. When I look at now at the diversity of restaurants and the quality that we have, the amazing products that bars carry from not only the Louis XIII, but the entire collection of Macallans or, You have the expensive like Heinz 250 anniversary, for $50,000 a bottle, or amazing stuff. I mean, I remember, nobody knew what maraschino was, and they asked me, "Hey, you're from Italy. What drinks do you drink in Italy?" I said, "Well, there's two famous ones, Bellini and Negroni." I gave up on the Bellini. Nobody will use fresh white peaches. Only cheap peach snaps, right? And a lousy Prosecco, or not even Prosecco. So I said, okay, I can't pursue this. How about Negroni? And people, when they tasted, they had funny faces. You should see. I should have taken pictures. It was embarrassing. So, oh my God, this is so bitter. This is nasty. Nobody
So it
will
wasn't a
drink
big
it.
thing.
No, everybody was on a 22 ounces frozen strawberry daiquiri with whipped cream and cocktail cherry on top. you know, and $5.99 buffets, and so forth. So it's changed so much. We have we started the United States Bartenders Guild in 2000 with Tonya Buchanan, Livio Lauro, Bobby G, Gleason, and a few others. And now we are the #1 largest chapter in the country.
Wow.
We have Daniel Bolushev, Thomas Keller, Gisawa, Morimoto is coming, Nobu Matsuisha, Robuchon. We have the Paul Bocuse Prize. I mean, it's insane what we have here now. And Jean Georges, and so it's really becoming the food mecca of the world here, because
really is.
I mean, you walk on the strip and you don't even need to take transportation. You just go from a $30 restaurant to a $500 restaurant next door. So
I mean, you come here and you ask whoever you're with, "Hey, what do you want for dinner tonight?" And literally anything, you can do anything. I mean, all
Anything.
the great chefs of the world, per capita, it's probably the greatest culinary destination in the entire world.
I mean, I could have an incredible, experience in these, 3-star Michelin restaurants, and then I'll find myself at 2:30 a.m., having a Kobe liver sashimi with garlic chip and sesame oil dipping,
Yeah.
and having an incredible, $300 bottle of sake, and in this beautiful, local Japanese restaurant where Joel Robuchon and all the top chef goes when they come to town for their business. So it's so diversified. It's so amazing. But I still believe that bar and mixology have a lot to accomplish still.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we don't have so many freestanding bars that they have a purchasing power on their own. We have to abide with a lot of union environments and corporate environments, like the MGM Resources or Entertainment. So I am kind of looking into that and try to probably down the road open my own bar, because I really wanted to share with my peers and Las Vegas community what I was able to gather over these 25 years or more of experience. But you're looking at some places downtown like Oak and Ivy, or you go all the way to Herbs and Rye, a local place, which, by the way, we were there last night or in the wee hours in the morning.
We were.
But it's a place to go to. They just wanna the high volume restaurant cocktail bar at Teoso de Cocktail. It's fascinating, incredible stories. But you do have these young individuals, limited resources. All they have is a vision on paper and passion. And if I am able to fuel them with this passion and giving them this mentoring experience where I allow them to avoid to make certain mistakes and be able to reach out to bar patrons and guests and be able to change their perception of how to drink less but better with this incredible quality array of spirits. So you go from Peruvian pisco to mezcal or Italian amari, Japanese whiskey. I mean, you name it. We have everything that the world can offer. We are so grateful and blessed.
Okay, so you get here in around 2000. You're brought here to train people, to educate. You get here. What's your goal? What's the opportunity? What's the landscape like? And what do you really put your focus on?
Well, when I came here, my boss said, now you have to set up an educational program. I said, okay. I'm kind of trying to learn English still, but that's okay. I'll do my best. So no internet, right? No websites, no much resources. You have to write to people. I'm still 2000 was still very raw, right? Connection was very low, bandwidth, was not the best. So I brought with me a trunk from Italy with all handbooks and books that I gather in the past 10 years. I set up shop. I asked for a budget. They told me, budget? What's the budget? There's no budget. Just do it. So I started going around office furniture stores and buy tables and chairs, a portable bar with a beautiful Galaxy granite top, and I started to do my gig. The first time I started my academy, I had 3 people RSVP. They signed up for it. That was a Friday, and Monday I was starting. So I spent the next 48 hours to recruit, buy drinks left and right to bartenders. So I started with 12 students.
Wow.
And I was on a 7 days program.
Wow.
Now it's a 12-week. I'm in a facility that we just renovated last year. It's called the Academy of Spirits and Beverage and Fine Service. I share my faculty with Master Sake Sommelier, Master Sommelier, Cicerone Sommeliers, and so we are very, very strong. We are, the largest distributor wholesaler in the world, still family owned, and we have incredible brands and suppliers. But the academy now, it's I had a budget of $700,000. I actually went over 2.2 million.
Wow.
So they reel me in and say, if you want it, you have to stay under 2. So I end up at 1.9 something.
But how does this happen? Because this is one of the most compelling drink educational platforms in the world.
It is.
It's amazing.
Well, Alan, this actually, thank you for this question, because I can tell you what happened. So, growing up, I've always been thirst for knowledge. I think that if I have to picture myself in a previous life, I probably would be Marco Polo, or actually in his entourage, walking back and forth through the Silk Route from Venice to the Mongolian steppes and Genghis Khan, and learning along the way. And growing up, I always have this thirst for knowledge for my business, because I truly believe that if you're a craftsman, you need to know your tools of your craft, but also techniques and everything. But there were limited resources, growing up, not in a place like Rome or Milan. We had very small resources. So every ambassador that would speak, and there were no ambassadors back then. We developed the ambassadorship when suppliers realized that I was speaking for distributors for many brands, so they started to hire ambassadors. But I really think that I was able to accomplish this because I wanted to bring knowledge and resources to my peers, to my fellow bartenders and mixologists out there, because they need to know. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you sell. But also, when you are able to be at the bar and sharing the knowledge of how wine, beer, spirits are made, even glassware, how glassware is made, or certain type of food preparations, right, or ingredients, and then you are spontaneously, automatically educating a customer. This customer leaves the bar enthusiastic, empowered by your knowledge, and then they go into a retail store, and now they don't need to taste the product because they know about it, they taste it at the bar. So now my customer becomes a much more educated consumer. So there's a win-win. So if you are a manufacturer of wine and spirits, beer, whatever alcoholic beverage it is, the bartender is truly your true ambassador, genuine, spontaneous, candid advocate for the brand, and then is able to he or she, they're able to shape the beverage industry as influencers and trendsetters. And I always loved a quote from Chef Daniel Boulou, a dear friend of mine that has restaurants in Las Vegas and also in New York and other places. But he said, trends are driven by business. Creativity is driven by talent. And Henry Macallan from the Harris New York Bar in Paris in the 20s stated that bartending is truly an art, and it takes considerable effort and studies to become an expert. So those are those individuals and those quotes and statements that I live by. Like R. Kelly, another bartender that wrote a book in the 1940s. He said, it's not only about cleanliness of the person, but cleanliness also of the working surface. And cleanliness of the working surface is about 50% of the bar business. So this is what I live by. It's the way you project yourself. You always have to realize that there is a cause and a consequence. So whatever you do in life, you're gonna harvest whatever you planted, right? You seed it. So the way that you're able to influence others, you have a great responsibility, especially if you start to be under the spotlight. You have a new up-and-coming bartenders that they seek you out and they want to learn. But basically, what I want to do is to be able to share my knowledge, my trials and errors, my success and defeats, and share it with my peers so they don't have to go through that, but they can reduce the time wasted by making mistakes, so they can go faster, grow faster, and much more efficiently.
You were showing me yesterday some of the features of the Academy, the camera system, and I mean something like that. It's so powerful because if you're watching someone demonstrate a cocktail, to be able to see the techniques and see the garnishes being made and seeing everything that's happening, a camera system that you have complete control over is game changing. Can you tell me about some of the things that you're really proud of in terms of the Academy that you've built here?
Well, Alan, as you know more than I do, because you look like you are an impressive. I feel like I'm in a labyrinth with cables and amplifiers and screens. I mean, it's amazing what you put up in your podcast on the go. But we live in a visual world, and we need to take advantage of technology. So, with these 80 inches flat screens and HD pan-held Sony cameras, we're able to do, from live streaming and recording and sessions and top views, so you can zoom in from the top down into the garnish, or from the top view on the right angle, left angle, and so forth. So it's very interactive, very stimulating for the audience, for the viewer. So that was one of the first parameters that I wanted to meet, and guidelines, because when I designed the class at the Academy, of course I had the great help from the interior designer when it comes to materials and patterns and colors and manufacturing. But I kept 4 parameters in mind: minimalism, ergonomics, functionality, and aesthetics. And if you keep those 4 core parameters and guidelines in your everyday job, when you're designing your working establishment or your working areas, it makes your job so much easier. And unfortunately, a lot of functionality and ergonomics have been compromised by aesthetic and budget cutting too. But in my case, I was lucky. I guess I did something right, and it paid off.
So many people in this industry, fall into it, and they kind of pick things up as they go, and they fill in the gaps. But you had such a classical training approach to it. How does that integrate into the work that you do now? And what are some of those elements? I mean, people focus on, how many drinks do you know? Do you know the recipes? Do you know the facts? But what are some of those intangibles, the hospitality side, that you try and bring to your students here at the Academy?
Well, Alan, that is a great point that you're bringing up. When people come to me and say, what makes a great bartender? And everybody in the room, I shouldn't say everybody, but if you ask them, they would say speed, right? Oh, fastest, the best. I don't believe speed is the key. I think speed, it's of paramount importance to have. When you have proper execution and speed, you're a lethal weapon. Nobody can stop you. So, when I think of my dear friend Marco Dionysius from Smuggler Cove, the way that he works behind that little bar, and cranking out tiki cocktails at that speed of light. I mean, it's inspiring. I will never be able to be that fast. But going back to your original question, is to me, it's about being a great bartender. Not even mixology, but is to exceed. Well, first of all, is to anticipate and exceed customer expectation. I give an example. When you see across the bar where the glass is half empty, or they drop a fork or a knife, or they try to have eye contact, or you see that there is a situation going on that you need to intervene or something. So it's when you are able to anticipate your guest in front of you, what their next need is. I think it's a great gift, but you can develop that. But I truly believe that at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, when you step behind the bar, you're on stage. People are looking at you, whatever you do, your movements, your gestures, and your mood, your demeanor, your the way that you basically try to carry out your profession day to day. But also, what is very, very special is that we're dealing with human beings. We're humans. We have emotions. And believe it or not, whether you like vodka, gin, or tequila, you're still a human being, and you have certain basic needs. And those basic needs can never be overlooked by bartenders of pride or arrogance, or believing to know everything, because nobody knows everything. Even Leonardo da Vinci, I'm sorry, actually, that's a Michelangelo in the, when he was over 80 years old, and after painting the Sixtine Chapel, he still stated, I'm still learning. So if we stop learning, if we still think that we learn everything and there's nothing more to learn, life would be so boring. But if you keep yourself open to learn every day, and not necessarily product knowledge, but sometimes it's how to handle a situation from a guest, or try to implement something with the least amount of resources or efforts. I mean, those are all tricks of the trade. And I think bartending is a fantastic profession because it allows you to put into fruition right away everything that you can learn in a heartbeat. So the profession that we have, to be able to influence someone's mind, purchasing behavior, and entertain, make someone laugh, or educate someone indirectly by sharing the product knowledge or reading a label properly from a liquor bottle or so forth. It's an incredible gift that we have, and that we have to maintain and we have to promote.
And how many students do you think you have trained?
If I have to think about the Academy of Spirits and Fine Service program, I think by now probably 1,000.
Wow!
But if I think about the one-day training here and there, whether it's at the Hilton in Shanghai, or a bar show in Sydney, or just going around the nation with national accounts, I think a few thousands.
Wow, so cool. And switching gears a little bit, I think we could probably spend an entire additional interview talking about spirits from Italy. You've been such a champion of Italian spirits. I'd love to get your thoughts on Luxardo and everything they're doing over there and their place in kind of cocktail culture these days.
I think that Luxardo is truly one of the greatest representation of Italy. Legacy, craftsmanship, and know-how when it comes to promoting a genuine product. There are so many amazing Amari and liqueurs in Italy. We actually, I probably come across a little bit of selfish here, but we did create the Amari category in Italy and the liqueurs when Caterina de' Medici in the Renaissance time moved to France and shared the love and the knowledge. Which the French makes great products too, by the way. But Luxardo, it's a family. And when I think of Franco, the patriarch, and and then down to the family members and Matteo that is trying so hard to fill his father's shoes, and he's doing very well actually. And it's a great product. It's it's not manipulated. It's all real fruit and spices, and you see, and that really it's when Italy comes to its best in promoting flavors. I think with all the appellation of origins and all the AOC, DOP, all these acronyms to protect ingredients, and whether are cheeses, olives, or onions. I mean, we have an incredible country where God has been very generous, very fertile soil, and incredible sightseeing, and Luxardo basically is the embodiment of all of this. It's really a brand that is definitely have longevity and integrity, and above all, it fits the needs of the modifier category for cocktails. And I know right now they're coming out with their gin and a few other things they have up their sleeves, but it's fascinating. I mean, come on. I mean, who has, who is able to patent, copyright a cherry? I mean, that shows that incredible expertise of these, Venetian merchants, from the Veneto region, like Marco Polo.
Yeah.
Back in the days, so it's quite unique. I'm very honored to be able to represent a brand like that. And they're also members of the Spirit of Italy that they started with me in 2011, and we're taking it around the country and now around the world also.
And everybody knows the maraschino and the cherry, but they have such a big portfolio. Are there any kind of dark horses in the Luxardo lineup that you're really excited about that you try and turn bartenders onto for cocktails?
Well, there are two actually that I really would like to see more behind those back bars. I should say three, but let's start with the one that is beautiful, and I wish many more bartenders would be exposed by now. But that is the apricot liqueur.
So good.
The apricot liqueur, actually, you can ask Matteo. He brought it into the States because I asked him, I was begging him. I was at the Anchor bar at the rooftop of the distillery brewery, and I came across this. When I tasted, I said, oh my God, we must have this in our portfolio. Also, the Angioletto, the hazelnut liqueur, that is fantastic, a lot of fun. But I think the apricot and the Sangue Morlacco, the cherry liqueur, are outstanding. And but you taste the Amaretto, the Saschira. It's just full, rich, enveloping. All this complexity obtained from the stone pits of peaches, apricots, and cherries. It's just a beautiful Amaretto. Is very lingering, intense. It's not watery or thin, or just like sugar water and almond flavors. So, but the cherry, it's intense, it's deep. It's just a fantastic product that makes your, Glen Roth Blood and Sand to a whole new level. I'm a little biased here with the with the Anchor portfolio, but it's fantastic. But your favorite Scotch whiskey, makes fantastic Blood and Sand. Your favorite gin to interplay with that cherry Morlacco for the ultimate 1915 Singapore recipe, Singapore sling recipe. So. And there's much more, to do with a fantastic line. I'm very, very honored to carry and promote it every day.